Let's talk to Clive Lambert. He is a director of FuturesTechs. Very good morning to you, young Clive.
Hello, Nick. How's it going?
Well, Monday morning blues. Right, we have 4 thought-provoking slides. Let's kick off with the first one. The Brent Crude weekly. Obviously, we've made 2-month lows last week, I believe. What are the charts suggesting from here?
We did make 2-month lows last week. It does look a bit toppy, that, and we did break a rising trend line on that chart a few weeks back. But the downside has been fairly muted, which has been, and that's not what you typically expect when we get the sell signals that we've had in that over the last few weeks. So I'm scratching my head a little bit and thinking maybe it doesn't want to go down. And then you look back further on the chart, and if you look, the high back in late January, was 71.30. We butted up against that again in late March and then busted through there in April. And it seems to be holding that level now on the retest. So it's come back to have a look at the old resistance, and it seems to be trying to do a job as support. So to me, that says 71.30 is a key mark, if you like. Yep. The move below there last week found buyers. So maybe this doesn't want to go down, and we should be preparing to see, preparing for the upside again, prepare to see another test of those highs in the 80s.
Okay, but a key chart point in play there. Let's move on to the crude light daily charts.
Yeah, this is a slightly different story. There's the fundamentals have meant that this has seen a lot more weakness, to be honest, and looks a cleaner chart and a cleaner chart for the bears.
Yeah.
We broke some key support there around the $66 mark, but that green line on our chart is an old friend that seems to be it seems to be something people like looking at in all sorts of markets these days. It's the 200-day moving average, the green line that we've come down to last week. This is a daily chart, so that was last Thursday that we hit that line and bounced. And there's something for the bulls there on what looks like an increasingly bearish chart. If we want to back the bulls and say, yeah, okay, they're back, then we need to retake a couple of important levels there. And those levels are 66. They're all got a 66 handle. 66, 63, and 66.87 are the levels I've got on my report today to say, get back above there and we'll back the bulls again.
Understood. Okay, let's move on to the third slide, the EUA Carbon Emissions, the daily chart. I thought your scaling was an error here, but obviously one-way traffic, right?
It's just a bottom left to top right chart, and I think I spoke to you about this one back in March when it was trading down at 13 euros, having come from about 4 or 5 euros back this time last year. It's still going. I think back in March I said, it's a very bullish looking chart. We've got a rising uptrend line. That uptrend line held again on a test in sort of June time. And you know how I talked on the Brent chart about support level, resistance levels turning into support when you're in a rising trend. We've seen this really nicely on this chart. It worked very nicely around 12.20. It worked really nicely at 14.20. It worked really nicely at 16.70. Every single time we break a resistance level, we see a reaction back to that level,
and the buyers come in,
and it keeps going. And this is just, it's nice, simple drawing horizontal lines on charts and just saying, that's going to tell us what's going on with it. And at the moment, 1670 was the last time that happened. We've got a rising uptrend line on that chart at the moment. It's around 1790 today, and it just keeps holding these levels and just keeps going up. So
onward and upwards.
Yeah,
okay.
Don't fight it. There were so many people like to fight against these sort of moves. They say, oh, it's got to come down soon, and it's not. And so don't battle against it, and use the charts to tell you when maybe you should. But at the moment, that chart's saying don't bat against it.
Okay, so well, I wanted to say the RSI just on that slide looks as if it didn't make a new high for the move. That was the only thing that I'd be slightly cautious of.
It's got that slight bearish divergence thing happening with the RSI, and that is a hint that maybe the upside is momentum is struggling a little bit. But again,
not a reason to take profits.
Until
Exactly.
the price chart confirms, you don't battle against these sort of moves.
Understood. Okay, let's wrap up with a dog of a chart, the gold weekly. Any chance of reversal anytime soon?
Well, when it broke below 12.38, I said, well, the next support of any real note is 11.24. It's an ugly looking chart. Had a big down week last week. That's a weekly chart we're showing there. But actually, there was a hint of lower shadow to last week. And when you see candlesticks with lower shadows, that's dip buyers coming in.
Yeah.
And there was actually something called a hammer on the daily last Thursday. And so there is a hint there, maybe, or a glimmer of hope for the bulls and the buyers in this one. But again, I ask that we retake resistance levels as we, you say, okay, we might have seen some downside rejection, but get us back above 1200. Get us back above 1208. Then I'll start believing the story. And actually, even if those two levels were retaken, 1238 to 1240 looks like a really big and nasty area for this one. So there's still a lot to do for the bulls on gold, but maybe a glimmer of hope.
But they're very interesting. The RSI is making a record low reading on this chart.
Yeah, again, and that's where the momentum studies can say to you that things have got overdone, and that maybe it's time to see some sort of at least a relief rally or a retracement of some sort. And yeah, that RSI very low reading for gold. Don't see it down there very often.
Clive, on that note, thank you very much indeed.
Okay, Nick. Cheers.